Thank you very much, and thank you for staying. I think it's great, that you're here on a Friday afternoon at nearly 5 o'clock, and I think you're going to find, I hope you find this interesting, because all of the things that you've heard today, all the discussion you heard up here today, is always going to root back to one thing, and that is investments. Investing in new technologies to find solutions, not gadgets, to find solutions to the war that we're in the middle of. No matter how you define it, no matter how you talk about it, there are bad actors, bad state actors, bad individuals that are attacking the systems that we rely on every single day, attacking the critical infrastructure. And so we started back in, let me see if I've got this right. What do I hit? There we go. Yeah, first of all, let me just tell you why, why are we capable of talking about these things? The third bullet gives you that answer, which is over the past 10 years, we've invested over 34 cyber companies, investing over $275 million in that. We've seen 3,500 cyber technologies in that period of time. We've built up a skill base, we've built up the people, we've built up a knowledge base which is second to none. And so we know the area, we know the spaces, we know where we want to invest, we know where to hunt. We also know the threats, and we know the vulnerabilities. And so that makes for what we believe is a real good investment environment, because again, keep in mind, in order to protect the critical infrastructure that we rely on from the bad actors, you need investments. You need the new technologies, and you need it even more so in the cyber world, where there is an incredible level of evolution every day in the cyber threats, in the cyber paths of attack against our critical infrastructure. So we would suggest that that it's a global challenge. We would suggest that it is economic, national security. We would use any number of ways in which to describe the threat. We would point to any number of actions. Do we share everything with everybody all the time? Well, ask the Iranians that. Ask the Russians that. Ask the Chinese that. They're not going to be sharing anything except stealing. I use the word stealing, intentionally using that word because that's exactly what's going on. And they are taking or they are attacking, one or the other. And so we're talking about being exploited at an unprecedented scale by a growing array of state and non-state actors. A single individual in Iran, a young boy, hits a stroke or strokes a key on his computer, takes down 30,000 computers in Saudi Aramco, wipes clean all of the data in the data banks. Gone. That's destruction. That is where the world is moving. You saw General Minahan's slide, which showed one day in the attack against the financial institutions in the United States. One day, almost took down that financial institution using the highways, using the critical infrastructure to take it down. Again, we're looking at these issues and we're finding those solutions, and we're saying that you can make great investments. You have to do it in a public-private partnership. You've got to do it with the government, you've got to do it with the businesses that own the critical infrastructure, and you have to be very smart about it. And so yes, we do look to invest in an active defense against the advanced persistent threats against our critical infrastructure. And that's where we started investing. We said to ourselves that the critical infrastructure is vulnerable. We said that we want to find products, services, and technologies that could make that critical infrastructure at times of crisis resilient We use the word trust. You want to be able to trust that those critical infrastructures will be able to survive an attack. It could be a natural disaster too, by the way, or it could be other kind of criminal activities. Technology in the cyber age is where we started. We started with critical infrastructure, as I said. Critical infrastructure is everything that we rely on day in and day out, which if disrupted or destroyed, changes the economic face of our societies, changes our society itself. Imagine if you had no electricity for 3 or 4 months. Imagine if you had no water for 3 or 4 months. Imagine if the transportation systems didn't work. Okay, and these are real possibilities. I mean, we're not talking about something that possibly could happen. I've described to you something that's happened in Iran attacking Saudi Aramco. Iran, the general showed you attacks against our financial institutions. What if we could not send wires? How many people here, when they do their own banking or their businesses do bankings, use wires? What if the wire system went down because of cyber attacks? Or more importantly, what happens if they reach in and if you're sending $180 to pay your electrical bill, that $180 go to cyber criminals? Has that happened? Many times. And so these are the kinds of things we're looking at. And so these vulnerabilities create great investment opportunities. And so cyber used to be, back in the day when we made our first cyber investment, something very simple. Moved information from point A to point B in a secure environment. The threat against that was stealing. Today, that was in 2002. Today, cyber now runs nearly all critical infrastructure. Okay, there's no humans involved. Again, I'm making a broader statement that I probably should. There are very few humans involved today. Our industrial systems are run by cyber. And so now you can see as the threat then moves from just stealing on down to disruption and destruction, you can see how we need to also bring together governments and the private sector, because the private sector owns the critical infrastructure. And that's actually going to be very interesting policy issues as governments begin to sit here and say, how much are we going to be able to work with businesses? How much are we going to be able to go forward with these businesses? Because we need their data in order to help them protect themselves. Very interesting set of discussions. The investment thesis is security in the cyber age. We heard a definition earlier of what cyberspace is. It is not just the internet. I mean, that's where a lot of people get hung up. When you start talking about cybersecurity, they narrowly define cybersecurity as something attached to the internet. I would tell you that and the general told you this somewhat earlier today, that what it really is, it's the global domain. It has to be global. It's the global domain of interdependent networks of information technology focused on critical infrastructures, including the internet, telecommunications, networks, computer systems, embedded processors, and controllers. Much broader than the internet. You have to be thinking about the technologies that you can invest in as you go forward, and then you start to take a look at, you know, what are you trying to find the technologies to defeat? It's terrorist attacks, natural disasters, and other criminal activities. You want to look at 4 areas to invest in, very vibrant areas: prevent, defend, cope, and recover. We can't prevent all bad things from happening. You have to be able to defend against it. Once it is over, you have to be able to cope with it. You have to be able to answer it immediately. We see a lot of investing in first responders, critical responders, lots of investing in the health area. Remember, health is a critical infrastructure. And then long-term recovery. And again, you're looking to do an active defense against the advanced persistent threats. You saw this particular slide earlier. The convergence of cyberspace critical infrastructure brings all of this together. And you read this from the bottom up, okay? Because what you're really looking at is the cyber technologies, products and services underlie each of the critical sectors, each relying on each other. If one's disrupted, the other is disrupted. But what we do, and what you might think about as you think about investing, is you might think about getting deeply into the critical infrastructures. There's no silver bullet that protects all of them. So you've got to get deeply into, for example, the financial sector. What do they need to protect their crown jewels? You've got to get deeply into the oil and gas sector or the energy sectors. What do they need to be able to do what they need to do to protect themselves? And again, this is the vibrancy of the investing in this particular area. And it goes on, life sciences, transportation, energy. And again, you recognize if any of these are disrupted, we've got real problems in our society. And that's where we have been investing, and that's where we would suggest you should invest in the future. Again, we think there's a wealth of investment opportunities. I'll give you a couple of examples of where we are looking and where we are reviewing today. When you think of cyber, the first thing you think about is forensics. A lot of investing around forensics, FireEye, Mandiant, these kinds of companies. Forensics is after the fact. Okay, you want to know who hit me, when did they hit me, what did they take, how did they take it, where did they visit inside of my system, how long were they there. More importantly, you want to be able to answer the following question: did they leave something behind so they can attack you later? And then you want to know who's going to do what about it. Okay, that's forensics. Some important vulnerability assessments come out of forensics. Lots of great investing in that particular area, especially on vulnerability assessments as you go forward. Where we think there's going to be vibrancy in investing is going to be in the diagnostics. And that's where big data comes in. So what you want to say is I want to know before they hit me that they're going to hit me. Okay? And that's where a lot of the very interesting investing is go, but it starts with big data. So what you start with big data. You want to extract from big data, essentially, actionable data, but you want to do it in real time. Then you want to be able to respond in real time to the threat that you see coming. So where the investing is going now is it's going very directly to a place of being able to provide private businesses and governments with the ability to be able to see the attack before it hits them. And 5 seconds in the cyber world is like 5 years in your life. And if you have 5 seconds, you can raise your active defense and defeat them. A lot of investing around taking out of big data, actionable data in real time. Lots of investing in being able to translate that into an active defense. Great stuff we're seeing out there. And then there's a lot of low-tech investing that's being done in this area. I disagree with one of the speakers here that says, we can't get the human beings to get to where they are. So we all know about phishing. Frankly, I'd like to be phishing right now, but we're talking about phishing on the internet, where about 80% of the attacks that get into the systems come through phishing emails. So you get an email from General Minahan. You say, gee, I saw him there. He must have known I was there. He says, hit this link, and you go ahead and hit the link, and then in comes all the malware. In comes all the bots. In comes all the attacks against your systems. So a very low-tech solution, something we've invested in, is a company called FishMe. And what it does is it gives the administrator of a company the opportunity to send out false phishing emails so that when one of the employees in your company opens it up comes a 2-minute tutorial right at their desk on their computer saying, this is what you should have seen. This now is being deployed in 7 to 8 million seats. We've been able to cut down on false phishing, or we've been able to cut down on phishing click-throughs by 80%. A very low-tech solution, a very easy way to educate the people that really will be the cyber warriors, which are the human beings. 6 billion attack surfaces to get into systems today, and that's growing. Every system is connected as an attack surface. Most of those systems are run by humans in one way or another, or they are programmed and they've got the policies in and around those particular things. So those are some of the areas: big data, forensics, diagnostics, vulnerability assessments, threat assessments. These are where we see investments and where we're going forward. What do you need to be able to do this kind of investing? What we have at Paladin is we have three worlds that we brought together. You met General Minahan. General Minahan's the managing director. He came to Paladin 2 weeks after the attacks of 9/11 and said there needed to be an investment community response to the attacks that had taken place. And that's where we developed the critical infrastructure investments thesis. And with these three worlds coming together, we're able to be informed, we hope at all times, of what the opportunities are to find technologies that can make a difference and that can protect our critical infrastructure. We think the investment window will always be open because of the evolution of the threats. Every 3 months, the threats change. Every 3 months, you need to have new technologies, or you need to have technologies that are in place that are changed. So we think it's a broad and a very good area for investing. And then you need to have a team, national security team headed by Ken Minahan. We have Richard Clark, who's probably the foremost gentleman in the world on cyber. He wrote the book on cyber war. He sat for 10 years as an advisor to 3 presidents on all matters cyber and all matters counterterrorism. Then you've got the technology. What you need in the technology and financial expertise, you got to put this together. So you need people that are not only good at financial, but you need people that have the requisite science. A lot of this is math, as you recognize. A lot of it has to do with the ability to be able to take the sciences and to work it with the math and to make the kinds of decisions that you think are good investments. And there's plenty of investments out there that you can also, that you make money. First and foremost, we're about making money and doing something good. But for the pensioners that we represent, and we got a little over $950 million, it's all about making money, and they also like that collateral benefit, is what we call it, of doing something good for society. And then the third leg of the stool are the people like Jim Woolsey, Wesley Clark, Elizabeth Hackinson, who brings us a tremendous amount of information about large energy systems and what they're confronting in trying to protect those energy systems from attack. And so this just gives you a picture of how we have put it together and how you might think about putting it together on a going forward basis. This is kind of what we look for when we go into transactions and deals. The first two are probably the most important here, and that is we want to invest in waves, not ripples. We want to invest in waves because we're looking for those disruptive technologies. That's what we want to be investing in. And we have plenty of examples of that. And then the thing that becomes the most important part of the investing are the people that run the companies that have come up with the technologies. You got to know that they know what they're doing. You got to work with them. You have to be as smart or smarter than they are on a going forward basis. White space means markets that are broad enough so that you have plenty of customers to create the revenues so that you can sell your company and make a profit for your investors. And I think the rest are pretty well understood. We spend a lot of time on value add, I might add. And then finally, here are the 3 areas that we're hunting now. We're hunting in enterprise IT. As you can see, cybersecurity is just a small piece of it. It's not the largest piece. We're hunting in communications and mobility, terribly frothy in investment opportunities here because everything is going mobile. All right, so you ask yourself this question. You've got employees. They bring their own device. They go home. They want to work at home. They want to call from the servers into their own device. They want to call into their servers proprietary information of your company. All right, and sitting on their device is, let's say, Angry Birds. I think that's a game, right? Angry Birds, or some kind of a game that has a whole slew of malware on it, and that malware jumps on that proprietary information and goes back into the systems, and then you've got an attack underway in your networks. It's not as easy as I've stated it, but that's the concept. So how do you protect that? What are the policies that you have? For example, are the people here, I would imagine, have traveled to China. Do you travel with your mobile device? I can assure you that if you traveled with your mobile device and you opened it at your hotel in China, everything that was on that device was taken. So you've got to have the right policies along with the right technologies. And then finally, the bio and the health area, tremendously interesting area, very much about the elements of cyber, velocity, the ability to be able to tell very quickly what's going on inside of someone's body, the use of semiconductors. This work for us came out of our work in the areas of weapons of mass destruction, where you're thinking about weaponized bacteria, weaponized viruses. How do you, in a very quick way, extract from big data, because the human genome is nothing but big data, actionable data, which is maybe DNA that doesn't belong there, to be able to then do the very quick diagnostics and very quick solutions to be applied. And then enterprise IT cyber will always be, I think, the first area that we're going to be working in. And I disagree with, again, one of the other folks. We are delighted to be here in Europe. We think that there is a vibrant VC community in Europe. Is it as vibrant as the US? No, but we think it's building. We can feel it. We can touch it. More importantly, they're entrepreneurs. They're in Germany. They are in the UK. They're in Ireland. They're in Norway. I mean, you know, we've now traveled. General Minahan and I have traveled all over, and we can see those entrepreneurs. We can talk to them. We can see the scientists. We see that they're serial entrepreneurs. So I disagree. I think that, you know, we're coming to Europe to do investing, and that's because we see it as a very fertile ground to find the technologies that we can make money at, make good investments, and at the same time do something good for our societies, both global and local societies. So that's it. I'm done. Thank you very much.